Alright guys, welcome everyone to today's video on MCI or Mass Casualty Incident Refresher for Hall Fire EMS. This video is designed to coincide with our big MCI drill we do yearly in June. So introduction, for those who don't know me, my name is Noah Flan. I'm a firefighter AEMT for the Town Hall Fire Department. I'm a IFSAC certified fire and emergency services instructor 2. I'm a licensed Wisconsin EMS instructor level 1. I have over 10 years of experience in fire and EMS in multiple counties. I started my career in Minocqua and then Arborvita, eventually moving down here to central Wisconsin. Worked for a full-time department called Safer, and now with Hall. My full-time job is I'm an emergency department tech for Aspirus Plover. So, what is an MCI? An MCI is a mass casualty incident. MCI is defined as an event that overwhelms the local healthcare system, where the number of casualties vastly exceeds the local resources and capabilities in a short period of time. So, I think historically when we think about MCIs, we think of these large terrorist events or war or whatever. But an MCI can really vary depending on the location that you're at. Milwaukee, the heart of Milwaukee, is going to have far more resources than rural northern Wisconsin. So we have to really examine, what overwhelms our local healthcare system. So we have some examples of MCIs. This is a natural disaster. I know for us here in Hall, we have several mobile home parks where something like this could easily happen. A tornado comes through and destroys, tens to hundreds of homes. This picture could be a couple different things. It could be an earthquake. It could be because of just a random building collapse. Summer 2024, I think, if I recall correctly, there was a building in Anago on their main street that collapsed. Not to the extent of this, but it still collapsed. For those of you who remember the Oklahoma City bombings, those buildings look very similar to this. And of course, our MCI trainings that we do every year, typically school shootings. So this is a couple pictures I pulled online from Stevens Point Plover Metro Wire. How about this one? If you guys remember this, March 14th, 2024. For people who don't know where Crandon is, Crandon's kind of my original neck of the woods. It's near, probably closest to Rylander, probably 30, 45 minutes north of that. But they had a CO leak, which caused 39 people to be sick, including several first responders that had to be transported to the hospital. Does that overwhelm the healthcare system? Absolutely. Up there, they have one ambulance, if maybe two, and your closest hospital is going to be the Rylander, probably, which is a small hospital to begin with. This is more for my people living in central Wisconsin. Do you guys remember this in 2020? The dust storm that happened in Plainfield caused 37 vehicles to crash on I-39. The scene was, I think, talking to their chief, it was 1 or 2 miles long. They had to set up multiple incident command posts, kind of in the middle of nowhere. 37 vehicles for us. Thankfully not all those people were injured, but that absolutely overwhelmed our resources here. 2022, talking about I-39 again, between here and Wausau, how many pileups do we see every year? Look at these pictures. Marathon County reports 147 crashes Friday. Obviously this isn't all at one time, those 147 crashes, but look how many cars are piled up there. Again, thankfully, most of these people weren't severely injured, but all it takes is a couple to overwhelm your healthcare system. Here's another one. There's no date on this, but I know this happened early 2022. 9 dead in Wisconsin. Crash between a semi and a van. You think, oh, 2-vehicle crash. Nothing. Van versus a semi. That's something we deal with every day. 9 people dead. If we had a crash where 9 people were critically injured here in Hall, would we be overwhelmed? I sure know we would. All right, here's another one. 2024, February 28th, 2024. Who remembers the ice storm from earlier in the year? On the right, I have calls, all the different times of calls that police, law enforcement, fire, EMS responded to. This isn't a traditional MCI because this is not, one event at one location. This is multiple events over multiple locations. But did this overwhelm our healthcare system? Absolutely. And we actually learned a lot from these several incidents on declaring mass casualties. And in the future, if we have 4 or 5 accidents, all from the same cause, all from an ice storm, we need to be declaring those MCI incidents. So incident command during an MCI. Let me go back. Make sure I didn't miss anything. So, for all those who have taken many ICS classes, I'm sure this is something that's not foreign to you, but we have our incident commander on top, our public safety, or our public information officer, our safety officer, or liaison, operations, planning, logistics, finance. What it doesn't talk in here about is the EMS branch. So this is where we train the most at for these MCI incidents, the EMS branch. So it goes under operations. You have your triage, treatment, transport, and staging unit. So let's make sure. So this goes over what each role is. Staging officer. Staging officer is responsible for keeping a record of resources that present to the staging area and monitoring the movement of resources. In those initial stages, they are going to act as accountability. So that's important for whoever is incident command or operations to know, because if I'm staging and I only have 1 ambulance available, but I have 30 people injured, I'm going to need some more resources, right? The staging officer should be in constant communication with the treatment officer to determine and make recommendations to IC operations for additional resources. So again, do we need to go up another box alarm level? Do we need to call in a strike team for ambulances? One thing that they try to teach is, 1 ambulance isn't for 1 patient. In an MCI, absolutely not. These ambulances can take 2+ patients. We try to, if possible, transport only 1 red patient per ambulance, 1 trauma red, triage red ambulance patient per ambulance. But that's not a hard, fast rule. That's something where if we need to get these people going, we'll give you whatever you can take. So a lot of people, I think, this is a pretty easy job. This is our box alarm life safety card for the town hall. So if incident command says, yeah, we have, 30 patients, how many patients can I transport with each resources? So if we go by the rule of 2 patients per ambulance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So we can get 30 patients out, on a third or fourth alarm. Well, look how far these resources are coming. Oshkosh, Anago, Kaukauna, um, these Appleton. These people are going to be hours away going emergent. So uh, we also need to realize too that you know just because you're on an ambulance doesn't mean you're going to be transporting. You're going to be assigned to treatment. You're going to be assigned to triage or uh, you know um, uh, those teams that go in active shooter situations to remove people. Um, so in reality, if we have 30 patients, I'm probably going to be calling a fourth or fifth alarm, and we're going to be waiting to get these people here. So I did the math here. For a fifth alarm life safety card for the town hall, you get 24 engines/squads, 29 ambulances that can take maybe 60 patients, 19 chiefs, 6+ EMR groups, helicopters in this area. You have one Aspirus, one Lifelink, and then you're going to be getting helicopters from the Fox Valley, helicopters from Minocqua, helicopters from Eau Claire, helicopters from um, kind of Madison area. So, if you have 30+ patients, you're getting resources from all over Wisconsin. And look at these pictures. These are pretty, uh, these actually are not good examples of staging. Um, let's say I'm releasing this ambulance from the scene. How is this guy supposed to get out? You want to be backed in nice and orderly. Uh, what if this is, um, this apparatus's district, and now there's a structure fire a couple miles down the road? How are you going to get out of here? You're kind of trapped. So we need to be organizing these people in ways that they can easily get out of the scene if need be. So the transport officer, the role of the transport officer is to arrange, track, and document the transport of patients from the scene to an appropriate facility. The transport officer communicates with the incident commander, treatment officer, and staging. The transport officer role will contact hospitals to establish the availability to receive patients, both the number and acuity level. The transport officer must match patients to the hospital based upon hospital capacity and patient acuity, and send the patients in a way that does not overwhelm the care capacity of the transport unit. So you might be wondering, how do we get hospital bed counts? So the state of Wisconsin is separated into several healthcare emergency readiness groups, also known as HERCs. If you see where we are here, Portage County, we're kind of um, in between a bunch of different areas, the Fox Valley, South Central, and then obviously we're in North Central. So um, when we have an incident here in Portage County, we're going to be activating a large swath of the state where if we are in middle Lincoln County, maybe not so much. As hospitals, we have a program called EM Resource. Um, it's been around for a while, but it really caught its niche during COVID. Uh, it was a way hospitals could report how many ventilators they had, um, how many COVID beds did they have available. We use it more so today for MCI, bed counts. So you hear an MCI take place, somebody from that department should be calling um, one of the local hospitals and say, hey, we have an MCI. We need to start getting bed counts ready. That person then puts in an event that the entire state will be able to see. Um, and each individual hospital has 30 minutes to put in their bed counts. So if we look here, this was on 11/23 of 23. So this is a drill. We do drills weekly at 8 p.m. at night. Spires Plover can only take 3 greens. That means they're pretty busy. Wausau hasn't reported anything yet. Um, you know, the only reds you can take just from this view, you can take 1 red in Langley, 1 red in Medford, 1 red in Minocqua. And that's for our north central region. We're not going to be sending obviously reds up to Minocqua. Or possibly we're not probably not even going to send reds to Langley or Medford. So in this scenario, we really can't be sending these reds anywhere. In my opinion, the transport officer has the hardest role. In the Amherst MCI trailer, we have these bed availability worksheets. There's a couple different kinds. I think this is the most like the ones that we use. But essentially, as that transport officer, you're going to put in, as you get the numbers, the hospital name, how many reds they can take, how many yellows, how many greens, and then what their specialty is. So for us, um, Wausau and Marshfield are going to be your trauma level 2s. Marshfield's going to be your ped trauma center. If you need a trauma 1 center, you're going to be going to Milwaukee, Madison, as well as a burn center. So, okay, I have 6 red beds in Wausau. As I start sending people there, I'm going to start crossing it off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When I hit 6, that means their resources are overwhelmed. I can't send them anymore. Now, obviously, if how do I word this? If the hospitals aren't giving us what we need, we can send them patients that they aren't asking for. Just be careful, every patient that we send that they can't accept um, is going to be a transport for them first off, and the potential for that individual's care goes way down to be treated properly. The transport officer is usually staged kind of right where the ambulances enter and exit um, the scene. Here's another version of the MCI tracking form. So each individual patient is going to get a triage tag. This kind of lets everyone know where each person went. So you don't even need to know their name. I know triage tag number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a red. I mark their injuries, what hospital they go to, the time they left the scene, or what unit transports them. So if it's Point, Plover, Oshkosh, Kakana ambulance, the time they left the scene, and where they're going. And this is a way we can go back and make sure we're not missing anyone, and we have records of where they're going. So the treatment officer, this is going to be kind of the main bread and butter of your MCI. So this is a great example of what a treatment area should be. We have tarps very similar to this that each have a bag that coincides with them. So your reds, those are your most critical patients. They're going to have things more like tourniquets and packing and stuff like that. Your yellows are going to be those people who have broken arms, broken legs, they can't walk, but they're not going to die immediately. That's not to say that a yellow can turn into a red or a green can turn into a yellow or a red. And then, your green, that's your walking wounded, cuts, burns, so on. As that treatment officer, you want to be kind of right in the smack dab middle. So, um, my um, red group leader says, "Hey, we have 5 reds. Um, one really needs to get out of here quickly." I can try and pair them up with a yellow that we can send as well. One thing I'll mention is when we're sending patients, especially with children, try not to split up families. So if I have, uh, a brother and a sister, one's green, one's red, I'm going to try and send, even though one is green and one is red, I'm going to try to send them together to the same hospital. That way parents have no idea, well, where's my other child? You know what I mean? Triage officer. So these are the people that are going to be going into whatever caused the MCI. Their role is to get initial head count, as well as assign triage teams to mark patients to triage them as fast as possible. So the triage officer is in charge of teams, coordinates with the treatment officer for movement of the patient into the treatment area, gets initial patient counts. So the big thing with this is I'm not going to drop on my treatment officer, "Hey, in 30 seconds you're about to get 10 reds." There needs to be that constant communication going back and forth, as to not overwhelm the treatment team, to let the treatment team kind of prepare a little bit. Do we need more people in the red section, the yellow section, so on and so forth. So since we're talking about triage, we'll talk about our form of triage here, the SALT triage. Stands for sort, assess, life-saving interventions, treatment, and transport. So on each individual triage card, it gives directions, very similar to this. So step 1, global sorting. Say, "Hey, anyone that can hear my voice, that can walk, I want you to go by this tree." Those are your greens. Anyone that can wave, that can't walk but can wave, give me purposeful movement, those are my yellows. And those people that can't hear me at all, they aren't moving whatsoever, those are my reds. Those are my life threats. So very quickly, within 30 seconds, I've already got a rough number. So step 2, assess individual assessments. So we're going to go to those reds first. We're going to try to control major hemorrhage, open the airway. You can give 2 rescue breaths if need be. We're going to be doing chest decompressions, auto injectors. So after that, are they breathing? Yes, no. If the answer to this is no, they're either black, dead, or gray, expecting to be dead. Yes, you move on. So obeys commands and or makes purposeful movement, has peripheral pulses, is not in respiratory distress, and major hemorrhage is controlled. If yes, you're going to move on. Are they major or minor injuries? They're minor injuries, green. Major is yellow, delayed. There you have a more detailed triage for those 2 groups. If any of these are no, you go, are they likely to survive given the current resources? So this is where you have to know your MCI. Do you have 500 patients or do you have 5 patients? That's going to determine greatly their likelihood to survive. So if they're not likely to survive, they're going to be gray. They're expected to die. If are likely to survive given current resources, stick a red sticker on them. Those are your most important patients. Now, after we work through all of our red patients, we go back to the gray. Some of those might turn into reds, some of those might turn into blacks. Um, it just determines on your resources at that point. So here we go. Priority 3, not injured or walking wounded. They have motor, respiratory, and mental functions, or you're delayed. Your yellow triage patients, they didn't walk out when asked, but their breathing's okay. It's between 11 and 29 breaths per minute. Their capillary refill is good, less than 2 seconds, and the radial pulses are present, and can follow instructions to move the unaffected limbs. Those are your yellows. Your reds are if you open their airway, they start to breathe. For reds, their breathing is greater than 30 or less than 10. Anything in between, that's going to be more of a yellow. Their capillary refill is delayed greater than 2 seconds. They don't have radial pulses. They have major bleeding that needs to be controlled, and they do not follow instructions. So these are exactly what our triage cards look like. They have some very minor things. Complaints, who did the triage, the time, the date, male or female, age, weight, what interventions you've done. If you can get their personal information, that's perfect for the hospital. Some more notes, destinations, minor injuries, vitals. These are serrated edges, so if they're a red, you rip off the yellow and green, put that in your pocket, and move on. So now that we got through that whole kind of basis, we'll go to scenario. So we'll say September 17th at 5:30 p.m. For those of you who don't know where this is I-39 in the town hall. This is Highway 10 West, and this is County X going into Dewey. And this is the big interchange, like you're gonna go over to Marshfield. So this X represents where the accident happened. Please excuse my terrible drawing. But this bus is going to be your accident. This is a better example, but it still doesn't do it justice. This hill is very, very steep. So this bus definitely rolled coming down the hill, and it's now landing on flat ground. As you approach the scene, you see about 18 people walking near and around the bus. What are your first actions? So that's where you're going to do your initial salt triage. Hey, you people that can walk, go over by that tree. You're going to try and get a good head count of your yellows and reds. If you know it's a bus, you're gonna immediately, call for a life safety card. Up to the 4th or even 5th level at this point. Start getting helicopters en route. Start getting an idea where you want staging, your landing zone, etc. So this is your bus. I believe this is a picture from New Jersey, or somewhere out east, I should say. But in total, if I recall correctly, they had something like 70 injured people from this bus. So, this is something that can very well happen. I think about how many cars travel up and down I-39, how many buses, sports teams, etc. So here's our life safety card. So, we talked before, how many ambulances do you need? if there's 60 people there, you're going to be going all the way to a fifth alarm right off the bat. And again, look how far away these people are coming. If you need more than this, your ambulances are going to be coming from Brown County, Green Bay, Dane County, Madison, or Sauk County. That's pretty far away. I should note here too, looking at the rest of this card, right away on a box alarm for life safety, you get Amherst's mass casualty trailer. That's going to have a majority of our equipment. You're going to get Rothschild's utility, which is going to be our command post. You're going to get more EMR groups. Moving on to second, you get the MABUS president, who is going to act as a liaison to get those additional resources from the state. Badger Red, who is going to work with the MABUS president for that. All right. So now we're going to go and triage a few of these patients here. So 25-year-old female from compound fractures to both legs, screaming for help. Initial triage, respiratory of 28, pulse is palpable, able to follow commands. Secondary triage, unable to walk, respirations 25, pulse palpable, still able to follow commands. So even though, both her legs are broken, she's going to be a yellow. Respirations are in the appropriate range. Her pulses are still good. Yeah, just because you can't walk doesn't mean that you're a red. Next patient, 35-year-old male, problem, fractured arm, bleeding from the scalp, able to walk. Respirations are 25, pulses are palpable, able to follow commands. Second triage, breathing's still fine, pulses are still fine, still able to follow commands. Even though this guy's bleeding from his scalp and his arm's broken, he's a green. He's a walking wounded. 56-year-old male, crushing head wound, no respirations after head tilt. Your initial triage, no respirations. Still has pulses. But they're still unable to, on your secondary triage, they're unable to walk, no respirations, no pulses palpable. So on initial triage, they're going to be a gray. By our standard secondary triage, they're going to be a black. There's nothing we can do for them. Next patient here, 28-year-old female, glass shard impaled in chest, wheezing, respirations are 15, pulse not palpable, able to follow commands. Secondary triage, they're still not able to walk. Pulses are still not palpable, but they're still able to follow commands. This is going to be our first red. You can see she's starting to slowly decompensate. Her blood pressure is really low. If we can't palpate that, she needs to get out of here immediately. 29-year-old male, large scalp laceration, walking towards responders. There's our first clue. They're walking. Respirations are 18, pulses palpable, able to follow commands. Same thing for the secondary triage. This is a green. 34-year-old male, numbness to both legs, 2-inch laceration of scalp. Respirations are good in that range between 10 and 30. Pulses are palpable, able to follow commands. Secondary triage, they're not able to walk. The respirations are still good. Pulses are palpable. Now they're unable to follow commands. So this gentleman went from a yellow to a red due to his being able to not follow commands anymore. 18-year-old female, problem, severed left hand, bleeding controlled, and walking. Respirations are good, pulses are good, able to follow commands. Second one, she's able to walk, respirations are 29, pulses are palpable, able to follow commands. So I put this one on here because this is depending on your scenario. She could be a green, she could be a yellow, she could be a red. The correct answer, if I have someone whose hand is severed but their bleeding is controlled, I still want them to get off my scene. I would probably make her a red or a yellow, just to get her off scene faster. But if you have 70 patients and 25 of those are actual reds, she's going to be waiting for a little bit, unfortunately. So, but again, if there's 5 patients, I'm absolutely putting her as a red. Next patient, 46-year-old male, entangled in debris, no respirations after head tilt. Triage, no respirations, no pulse, not able to follow commands. Unable to walk, no respirations, no pulse. So this is going to be a black. Next one, 19-year-old female, problem. Crushing injury to lower body and severe pain. Respirations 38, pulse is palpable, able to follow commands. Second triage, still not able to walk. Respirations are 37, pulse are palpable. I don't know if this is supposed to be able or unable to follow commands. I'm going to assume it's able to follow commands. So this is a red. Why is this a red and not a yellow? Those respirations. She's working really hard to compensate here. So this is another one that we need to get off our scene pretty fast. 68-year-old female, open fracture, or open right femur fracture, arterial bleeding. So they have uncontrolled bleeding. The respirations are high. Even though they're able to follow commands here, that's still a red. Okay. Secondary triage, unable to walk. Respirations 10, pulse is palpable, unable to follow commands. So here's another one. Depending on how many patients we have, that secondary triage, does she now turn into a gray or does she still stay a red? There's no right answer. It all depends, is all scene dependent, all scenario dependent. If we have 70 people, if we put her in an ambulance, or here's a better example. If we had her on the operating table right now, what is her likelihood to survive? I would wager, even if she had the most amount of care in the world, it's still probably going to be slim to none. So, just food for thought. So this is the official list that we talked about. Yellow, green, black. Number 7, that was our hand removal lady. They have her as green here. I'd beg to differ that she's, either going to be a red or a yellow. And that last one too, she's a red, technically, but, depending on your scene, could be a black or a gray. Anyways, thank you guys for attending this training. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. And see you on the fireground. Thanks, bye-bye.